So in the last video, we were able to display posts. In this video, we're going to be liking posts. So whenever we like a post, we want to increase the like count by 1 that is displayed on the page. We also want to go behind the scenes and send an AJAX request to actually like the post. So to do this, we need to modify our API again. So we'll go back to the API. To create a new like, what we're going to do is we're going to send a post request. So we're going to scroll down, scroll past auth, scroll past users. And what we're going to do is we're going to say else if get URL equals likes. So when we send a post request to likes, we're going to like the post. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the posts class. You can see here is how we like and unlike a post. So we're going to copy and paste all this and then just paste it in here. And then of course we have to modify our DB query from DB query to use our DB object that we created in the API series. And we're just going to copy and paste it to overwrite all these old queries. At the minute, the notify class will break everything, so we're just going to comment that out temporarily. So you can see we have a variable called post ID and liker ID. So liker ID has to be the user ID of the user who's logged in, and the post ID has to be the post that we want to like. So post ID has to come from our URL. So we say post ID equals get post ID. And we'll actually just call it ID. So we get the post ID out of the URL and we get the user ID out of the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll up, and we've already done this up here. So you can see we get the user's login token out of the cookie, and then we get the user ID from the token in the database. So we scroll down and we're going to paste that in there. So now we have the liker ID, which is what we're going to call this, liker ID. And we get the post ID from the URL. We're not going to deal with stuff like malformed requests because that is more specific to the API series, but we're not worried about that in this part. So if I set a post request, I should end up liking the post. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the like button on the index.html page, and on each like button, here is the like button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say data ID equals our post ID. So the post ID is how we're going to know which post to like. So we're going to copy this, and then in data ID, what we're going to do is paste it in there, and we'll paste in post ID. So now that we're storing the post ID in data, what we're going to do is scroll across, and inside of our each function, what we're going to do is add an event listener onto each of those buttons, so that whenever each individual button is clicked, we can send a post request, and because we're adding it this way, we'll be able to tell which button was clicked, so we'll know which post to like. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to access all of the items with a data ID attribute, just like this, and I'm going to say on click, we're going to run a function. So now what we're going to do is we're going to send a post request whenever this button is clicked. So to do that, we're just going to do what we did before, get our AJAX method, paste it in here. We have our success function next, and then we have our error function, just like that. So now what we want to do is we want to send our API request to API/likes. We want to change it to a post request, but there's not actually any data this time. And then what we're going to do on success is console.log the response. And we're not just sending the request to API/likes, we're sending it to API/likes ID equals, and here we want to paste in our post ID, which means we want to append on a string, and we want to append on this dot attribute, and then we want to append on data ID to get the ID. And we want to change our post ID variable to post ID with a capital I, and liker ID to liker ID with a capital I, because if we scroll across, you can see that's the variables we've used later on in the script. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this code, and hopefully it should work. So now if I refresh and I click on this first one, and now if I refresh, you can see it's decreased to 0 likes. If I click it again and I refresh, you can see it's increased to 1 like. So what we want to do is we want that to update on its own without having to refresh the page. So that's really easy to do. All we do is we scroll down to index.html. So what we can do is say this, which is how we access our current button, and we can update the HTML just like this. We go to the inner HTML, which is this icon, which is the heart. We scroll across and we end here on this span tag. And now what we'll do is just scroll down and say this.html, and we'll update the HTML. But instead of setting it equal to post likes, what we'll do is we'll set it equal to res.likes, which is going to be our response. Var res is going to be equal to json.parse whatever response we get back, which is going to be R. So we go back to the API, and regardless of whether we like the post or not, what we're going to do is we're going to echo out db query, select likes from posts where id equals post id, and then here we'll just pass in an array. We'll say post ID equals post ID. And then as usual, we access the 0th element that's returned, and then we access the likes column. And we're going to echo out some JSON too. So we're going to echo out a JSON string. Then we're going to echo out another string, which is going to be likes, colon. And then we're going to echo out this number. And then finally, we're going to echo out the closing JSON curly brace. So that should be valid JSON that we're returning. And now if I click on a button, you can see we get likes 1 returned. If I scroll down and click here, you can see we get likes 1 again. Click it again, we get like 0. But it's not updating our button, so we need to fix that. So we're going to go to index.html one more time. And actually that's not going to work because at the minute when we use the this keyword, we're actually referring to this AJAX request. So to fix that, what we'll do is create a variable called button ID, and it's going to be equal to this.attribute data ID, just like that. Just like we're getting here, we're storing the ID in button ID. And then now that we have the button ID, what we're going to do is we're going to change from using the this keyword to create a string where we access all of the items with a data ID attribute. And then we say where data ID equals, and then here what we're going to do is pass in our button ID. We're putting a string there so that we can end the surrounding string and paste in button ID. Just make sure we included the R variable in our JSON.parse so that it can actually parse things. And now we will click on a button, and now you can see it animated. Our likes increased by 1. We click on this one, it goes back to 0, animated again, we click it again, and it's animated again. I logged into a different account so that we can see more likes, and if I click on this one, it's decreased. Click on this one, it's increased to 2. Click on this one, it's also increased to 2. And we did all that without reloading the page. So all those bugs that were pointed out should be fixed. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. If you have any questions, don't forget to email me at francis@howcode.org. Don't forget, you can still enter our competition. The first winner has already been announced, but there's a second winner. So don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit to increase your chances of winning. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.